Hi, I'm Vidim from EnrichPoint. Now, since my wife and I released epSpeak, our AAC communication app, I've had a number of people ask me about, what does it mean from the Caregiver site? I mentioned in the video I created for epSpeak that there is an ability to log in, although to use the app you don't need to log in. So what I want to do with this video is cover what does this all mean for a caregiver. So if you haven't already seen, this is the EnrichPoint.com site. If I go to the main page, this is what it looks like. You'll see some of the apps that we have already released. Now I'm going to go into epSpeak because that's what we're going to be focusing on. But before we get into the information around epSpeak for a caregiver, at the very top right of the screen, you will see a sign in button. This is where you see this image of this lady. Once you click on sign in, you'll have three options to sign in. One is using Google, another is using Apple, and the other one is using an email and a password. Now, if you want to use email and a password, there's also the option to create an account, and then you'll provide an email address and a password, and that's what you'll use to log in. Now, this is all tied together so that you can use that same account to log into the apps as well. So once you've logged in, when you're on EnrichPoint.com and you sign in, it will actually automatically take you to this page. This is your My Account page. So here you'll see at the very top Caregiver Insights. I'll cover that in a moment. You'll see the apps that your household has licenses to. You'll see your profile and you'll be able to set your image if you want to. You don't need to do that. This is where you start building out your household. And a household could be any number of people, any number of caregivers, any number of end users. And again, you can add images. And the reason why I actually added images into here is because we do have an app that does some similar stuff to this, which is called the epSpeak Caregiver app. And those images appear in there. It just makes that a little bit easier to interact with. So that's why I have the images. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. You'll see your My Licenses category down here. So this will be all the apps. You'll see the ones that have orange buttons that say Open App. These are the ones that this account has access to and has licenses for. So you can click on the Open App and that will take you to this page. This is the epSpeak Caregiver Portal. So there's a number of important things I'm going to go through and cover here because I want to make sure that you see what kind of value you're actually getting out of this. So your dashboard shows you the name of your family, the number of caregivers you have, the number of end users, any pending invitations. Now, what is the difference between a family and a household? A household is any number of caregivers and end users. In epSpeak specifically, you have a family, and the family is going to be what is going to be using this particular app or this particular product. Right, so the licensing is going to cover these specific users, both caregivers and end users. Okay, this is where you start building out your family. You can create them manually. You can add them from your existing household. I would recommend you build out your household first, is add them from there. When you go to end users, this is where you start to see the specific end users. It will select the first one by default. It will show you all the epSpeak categories this user has installed on their device. So in this case, the son has feelings, places to eat, clothes, and numbers installed. You can customize these, so you can go into here and say, I want to hide or show specific items. Maybe there's something in there you don't like. You can actually just hide that item. So for example, for feelings, I don't want to see calm. I can click on that and I will hide that if I want to. This is also where you can remove categories and you can also assign categories. And the assign actually allows you to assign some of those free categories so the user doesn't have to go into the gallery themselves and download them. This will automatically do it. Or, and I'll show you in a moment, you can create your own custom categories and assign those as well. Once you've done that, you then have the analytics page, and this gives you some information about how your end users are actually using the epSpeak app. You've got your overview, you've got your patterns, so you can see when certain words are being used or certain items are being clicked on based on time of day. So in this case, This is a good example of how my grandson would use it. They tend to use Culver's quite a bit because that's their favorite place to eat. So he will click on that. I see that it happens in the afternoon, so this is a good way for me to know, he gets hungry and he wants to go to Culver's. Vocabulary gives you an idea of the most common words they use, most open categories, most used items, helps seeing how they're actually evolving and using the app as well. You've got some trends, some heat maps down here as well. Okay, now the next important thing I want to cover is alerts. Alerts is the idea that there are certain categories and certain items in those categories that myself as a caregiver and any other caregiver in my family, we want to get notified when our grandson clicks on that particular item. So for example, under feelings, I have 2 flagged that I want to get alerted on. It's angry and scared. If my grandson is ever angry or scared and he clicks on any of those items, I want to get notified of that on my phone. If, for example, he clicks on Culver's, I also want to get notified because that tells me that he's hungry and he wants to go eat. Now imagine we had another category here and one of the items in there was something like bathroom or potty, and your child clicks on that. You want to get notified on that. Now when they click on that item in the epSpeak app, it will bring it up and it will play the audio. But the reason why we did this and why this has helped our grandson is that sometimes our grandson goes up to his bedroom and wants to hang around in there, and if he's using the mobile app in there and he clicks on bathroom, we're not necessarily going to hear it because we're in another room. So this is a way for us to get notified. The other important thing about alerts is that if they click on that item consecutively 5 times within 60 seconds, then there is a more urgent alert that goes to all the caregivers in the family. So now that's something that we really need to do. So for example, if you had a category that had tummy ache in there, or stomach ache, or headache, you want to get notified. If they click on that several times and that's because they're in pain, you want to get on that as quickly as possible. So this is why we built this alerts system into here. Okay, we've got notes and goals. This is for you and your caregivers to put notes or goals that you want to add for individual end users. Approvals, this is something that we will be expanding on. The idea here is that if you create a category, you can deploy it to your end user. But if we have a practitioner, so we're talking about a speech therapist, an ABA therapist, a babysitter, and they create their own category and they want to deploy it to your child's epSpeak app, you want to make sure that what is actually being deployed doesn't have anything offensive in there, and it's all okay to be sent to your end user, and it wasn't a mistake to send that category to them. So when a practitioner does that, it will actually go through all the caregivers, and one of the caregivers needs to review it, approve it before it gets deployed to your user's epSpeak app. Deletion requests. This is if you are on the epSpeak app as the end user, you can go into settings and you can request that your account be deleted, right? And that will delete the account. It will delete all the data behind it that we have stored server side for some of these analytics and alerts, etc. Now, this is not something that can be easily done, so I want to make sure that this is not accidentally deleted their account. So in order to get this done, they fill in that request or submit that request. It will go to your caregivers to either approve or reject that account deletion request, and then there's a history so you know which caregiver actually approved or rejected that request. All right, so this is the dashboard and some of the important pieces of information and features that you have in the Caregiver Portal under specifically epSpeak. Let's have a look at the category designer. Now, out of the box, there is a gallery with a bunch of free categories in there that you can either download on the app or you can deploy it from here. But you can also create custom categories. And the reason why you'd want to do this is maybe there are certain specific things that you want to create that are very specific to you and your family. Maybe it's certain locations, maybe it's places to eat, maybe it's certain activities that your child likes to do. This allows you to create the categories yourself. Now, this particular user we have logged in as hasn't created any categories yet, but here are some of the ways you can do it. You can use AI to generate these. Now, if you get a trial of this, it's a 7-day trial, you can use this functionality, but you'll only be able to save it as a draft. You will not be able to publish these categories, and to publish them is once they're published, you can then deploy them. So this is for a 7-day trial. This is just for you to try this out. Provide your category title, your description, what language you want to support, how many items you want to create, the style of the images. Maybe you want realistic, maybe you want AAC board style, cartoon-like, very specific to what your child or your special needs adult would react to best. And then you can describe how you want these images to look. If you look at some of the examples that we have in the gallery, I have put in things like I want a light blue sky background with some white clouds. Very kind of Toy Story-like, and that's because my grandson loves that, so he reacts better to those. So this is generating the category with AI. You can also manually create these categories. This is where you upload images yourself. So you upload an image to the category. You also create your items manually. So imagine creating a category which is our dogs, and you have, or our pets, and you want to create all individual items of pictures of all the individual pets that you have and their names, and it allows your child to click on one and say, I want Harley, and that will give you an idea they want to play with Harley. Okay, so these are a few ways of you to create these categories. You can also have suggested, it will actually give you suggestions on what categories to create as well that will help you guys. Now, all of this is of course surrounded by some licensing because there's a bunch of stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So if you are interested in getting a subscription to this, to provide this functionality or get access to this functionality, go into the EnrichPoint.com site, click on products, click on epSpeak, you'll see caregiver plans. Go in there, and that's where you can get a monthly subscription depending on your family size and how many end users you want to be able to interact with. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@enrichpoint.com, and I really appreciate the time you took to watch this video.